For more than 100 years, the Haley Red Family Foundation has proudly supported Auburn University scholarships, investing in students' dreams and brighter futures. For over 25 years, we've also stood beside the Sheriff's Girls Ranch, helping young women find hope and opportunity. The Haley Red Family Foundation, building generations of success.
Welcome in again, everybody, to the Terry Bowden Show on the Auburn Undercover Podcast. I'm your host, Ronnie Sanders, and today we're joined by Auburn Undercover longtime columnist, Phillip Marshall. Terry, Phillip, good to be with you all this morning.
Good to be with you.
Good to be here. It's good to see you again, Phillip. And it was good. It was great. I was going to just open up saying, Saturday as I was at the Auburn Georgia game, and that's the first time I've ever watched an Auburn game in the stadium from the seats. And it is truly an experience. I've always thought, we've had advantages at home, then advantages at night game at home. But I think until you get up there and you sit in the stadium and you sit in the seats and you watch everybody, you realize how big it is to so many people. I think on the sideline or as a coach, sometimes you don't have that perspective. You're caught up in your little world of your coaching staff and your team. And getting ready for a game. And when you get up there in a stadium and you sit and you watch, you begin to understand what an unbelievable experience it is at an Auburn game. The number of people they're emotionally invested, they're financially invested in this team and in this program. And then and it was amazing the event that it was, how coordinated, the light show, all the things that went on. And how loud, my watch, first time ever, my watch went off twice saying that if I didn't get out of that place, it was so loud, it may affect my hearing. That's what, it was like me falling down and my watch was telling me, you need to get out of there. It's too loud, But truly was a great experience. It's a tough loss to have. And we'll probably have a little bit to talk about it. But I was just going to ask you, Phillip, what year was the first year you were at the stadium and what changes have you seen all those years in watching a game? I was going to ask Phillip, when was the first year?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's happened before. But.
Well, he wanted to know what changes you've seen over the years.
What was the first year you were there and how much it's changed the whole atmosphere since you first went there?
Well, the first time I went to an Auburn football game what was there then Cliff Harris Stadium?
Yeah.
That I remember at least was 1960.
Gosh.
Auburn played Chattanooga. And my father and Hal Herring, who was Auburn's defensive coordinator, I don't think they called it that then, but we're very close friends, and our families were close friends. And I had a sideline pass for that game. And what I remember is that it was Auburn didn't, as frequently happened, Auburn struggled with Chattanooga a bit. And Jimmy Burson, who was a great running back, returned the second half kickoff 100 and some odd yards for a touchdown, the only touchdown in the game. And Auburn won 10-0. But I've been to a bunch of games there since, as you might imagine. And at that time, they were just building they were just putting the seats in the north end zone. And it would seat once they were in there, it would seat 43,000. So it's basically twice the size now as it was then. And
was it any louder during the kick six than it was during 1960?
That was Terry. I was on the sideline, as we do in the last few minutes of the game. I was on the sideline for the kick six, standing down near the end zone on the direction Chris Davis was coming, so he was coming toward me.
Right.
But I was just standing there watching, and when I saw the field goal was not going to be good, I thought, wow, wait, an overtime Iron Bowl, that's going to be another experience. And then I started walking back toward the middle of the field, and I was actually like a couple feet out on the field because I thought they were fixing to go have the coin toss.
Yeah, for overtime.
And for overtime, I didn't even know Chris was back there. And then the next thing I know, the crowd starts roaring, and I look, and Chris has turned the corner, and he's coming right toward me. And I'm like 2 feet on the field. And I quickly got off the field, obviously. And but I've had literal nightmares since then that he ran into me, and he fell down, and I fell down, and I'm sure I would have never been welcome at Jordan Air Stadium again. But the loudest, that moment,
yeah,
when he broke free, and you knew he was going to score, you could literally feel the ground shaking on your feet. It was so loud, and that may have been the loudest moment. The loudest game would have to be the '89 game, the first time Alabama played there, just from start to finish. It was an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah, I've seen that game on TV or on the internet 10 times. I've seen that kick, as most people in college football have seen it. But you can't feel the excitement. You can't feel the energy. You can't feel the sound. And it can't be replicated, I think, on any kind of television or radio.
It was so unexpected.
Yeah.
It was so unexpected. I mean, all Auburn fans are doing is hoping he doesn't make the field goal.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah.
They're not thinking in terms of it turning into an Auburn touchdown to wins the game. But at the same time, I don't buy that it was some kind of miracle. It was a good decision to put the best kick returner in the SEC back there, and then and he made a great return.
Yeah, and the wall would not have been set unless they practiced, because there was a great wall set up. They had practiced it, and it didn't just happen by chance. I know it takes just the right distance, just the right kick, and just the right circumstance. But that's kind of what made that one so. Well, you know what? If it would surprise the coach, if it surprised Nick Saban, it surprised Alabama. So it surprised everybody else in the stadium, because they of all people, and I probably would not have been ready. We've said this a million times, and we'll get to the game at hand. But we as coaches, we're worried about protection. We want the biggest linemen, the biggest bodies, the widest bodies in front of that kick, because he's probably going to kick it a little bit low. He's got to go a long distance. We don't want it blocked for a touchdown that way. That's what you assume. It's going to get blocked, and they're going to pick it up and scoop and score. But we forget that those big old fat guys have to chase the ball down, and Auburn prepared for it, and they had people there for it. It was a great win. Now, the second thing I want to ask you, the one thing that I had never seen live, because we're always in the dressing room coming out, was the eagle flying up and around. When did that start? Because that's as exciting an opening event of any game in college football. What year did they start doing that?
I'm not sure what year it was.
Early 2000s. Early 2000s. It was early 2000s. I want to say 2001.
Right around there.
That is one of the neat traditions in college football for sure.
All right, I got to ask you this question, and I'm embarrassed that having been there so long. And of course, I got married this summer, and my wife her son's on the Georgia staff, so I'm in orange and blue, and she's in red and black at the Bears. So it's not the typical mixed marriage in our state, because that's Auburn, Alabama. But she asked me, and I said, why are y'all also called the obvious is why Tiger, why Eagle? That's easy for me to explain, but I could not remember why we're the Plainsmen. Is that is it why? Is it are we on the plane or for dumb old me is Auburn? I mean, it kind of rolling hills to me. I wasn't,
No, it comes from Oliver Goldsmith's poem. And
Loveliest village on the plains.
Right.
That's
exactly.
it. That's it.
And it doesn't make any sense, really. Auburn is not on planes for sure.
Well, that's what baffled me because I live in Northeast Louisiana still, and for miles and miles and miles on the west side of the Mississippi River is nothing but flat farmland. You know, you talk about plains, it's flat. And I said, well, in Mississippi, once you get to Mississippi and Alabama, it's rolling hills, you know, and it's a little different. But things changed, kind of like the first half of the second. What were your thoughts of the game, Phillip? I mean, as you watched it and you're writing about it, how did it? I'm just curious if my thoughts watching it were the same as your thoughts watching the game.
Well, several different thoughts, obviously.
Yeah.
I thought the first half they played. I thought they played the best first half they played since Hugh Freeze had been there.
Yeah.
And I'll go to my grave convinced that Jackson Arnold clearly scored.
Clearly.
And I think they win the game if that doesn't happen. Having said that, then you get to the second half, and Georgia has been all season, probably longer than that, extremely good at making adjustments at halftime.
Right.
I mean, they shut Alabama out in the second half after giving up 24 points in the first half. But to go from playing as well as they did in the first half to can't make a first down in the second half, that was just kind of bizarre to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't just they didn't score; they couldn't. Like I said, they made They made a first down on the first possession of the second half,
right,
and didn't make another one to the last possession of the game, which didn't really matter. And
that Hugh would have a pretty good wrinkle or two offensively, and wrinkles don't have to be real big. Wrinkles don't have to be something fans can see. It might be just a little variation in the blocking scheme or a little variation in the play selection. And to me, I thought it was as good a calling of a football offense as you could have the first half. I mean, the mixing of the run and the pass, third downs. I thought that was as good as I've seen Auburn play. I didn't watch Hugh Freeze the last few years like Phillip did, but as far as what they needed to do to be successful, to take advantage of the off week, I thought they had studied and they had a great plan, and it was going that way. And I believe that if they would have scored there, and they did, we're going to talk about officiating a little bit, because I got to ask you something, because I get really ticked off when officials make a change like that, not thinking of the repercussions. Because at that point, I think if they score, they win. I don't care if Georgia would have been coming back in the second half or would have played better. As I sat in the stands from where I was sitting, and I have to get to this because I was sitting right next to Willie Anderson and Wayne Gandy. I was up there in the elite. They were sitting out there. We talked for a little bit. But anyway, when that happened, and the fans were crazy. That first half, it was wild, and Auburn was doing everything right. And Georgia didn't have but about 19 total yards of offense up until that play. But when they missed that call, and when they made that call, I could feel the energy come out of the crowd too. I could feel the energy come out. It's like, oh no, here it goes again. Oh no, this happens, or this bad thing happened. And that next drive, Georgia went down and kicked a field goal. And then the second half, they built on it. And all the stats that Auburn had and Georgia didn't have the first half up until the last drive, it just flipped around. And Georgia had all the stats, and Auburn couldn't pee a drop, in the second half. And yes, I believe Georgia made great on-the-field adjustments. And that's easier if you've got a little better football team. I mean, overall, I think player for player on both sides of the ball, they probably had a few more players. But it wasn't just that. It was like you said, it was a game plan change. It was the adjustments made at halftime, along with just to me, the momentum, whatever Big Mo, what makes momentum change, it does change. I just thought momentum left us and we couldn't get it back. And statistically, we were as bad as they were, right. The first half. And it was amazing how different. And let me just say this about that call. Why it's a bad call. First of all, he went across. Secondly, the official didn't call what he saw. He called what he thought he saw. Because as if you watched it up on, I've said this since I became a commentator. After I left Auburn, I'm doing TV. The officials have the worst view of everything anyway. Everybody else has 6 TV camera views. And so around the goal line, they're all afraid to call a touchdown. Every time you dive across the goal line, they'll put it back on the half-yard line and let the review correct it. Well, he called a fumble, having not really seen it. And then they had to have 100%. They almost had to have 100% to take it away. I mean, it was and then when you look at all the videos, to me, it was clear the ball was over, and it just changed. It changed the course of the game. And
what amazes me is, yes, and I think, and I've said this for years, if you're guessing, then you ought not to be an official.
No, yeah, that's right.
Either you see it or you don't.
Right. Or don't call it. Or don't, if you don't see it, don't call it. Don't think you call it. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, that's happened to Auburn. That to make a call like that. But the biggest problem I got is on that play is the replay official. How could you watch that video over and over and say that's a fumble?
Right.
I don't know how that's even possible.
No.
And then not only that, then Georgia gets the ball and Auburn loses their best cover corner on it's being generous to call it a borderline targeting call.
Right.
And then they get an absurd roughing the passer.
Absurd roughing the passer call.
And I mean, how does that happen? And there's no, I know they would say there is accountability within the SEC office or whatever, but at least publicly, there's no accountability for these guys about anything. Everybody else in the game, coach, players, they have to talk and take and be accountable for what happened. Officials don't, and I don't understand that.
Well, it's like the two other things because I agree with you that they're going to get up and everything's going to be fine on Monday, but for coaches may not have their job. And this isn't the first game this has happened, and both times the game has been lost that could have been won. But in my mind, I think Jackson Arnold was across the goal line twice, to be honest with you. And
I thought he scored play before.
They scored twice. And then I don't understand why when Kirby was calling a timeout and said he wasn't calling a timeout, it was clear he was saying timeout and pointing to timeout. And I couldn't figure out how they could make that decision as well. Now, and the worst thing of all this, when Auburn had momentum in the first half, they had so many replays that stopped the clock. I said, I didn't realize as a coach how long these things took. I mean, it took all the momentum away from Auburn at that point. It stopped and it would last forever. Then they would review and not even change the original call. And it was I was just disappointed. I said, the SEC is better than this. The officiating must be better than this because it was not good.
It wasn't good. And Terry, did you watch the Oklahoma game?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I watched the Oklahoma game.
I mean, it's just bizarre, but you could go back to Kirby's timeout. The latest claim is that it was because Auburn was clapping on defense, which is against the rules. And I said, here's the thing. He was calling timeout.
Oh, he knows that. Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. And you can't. And then they gave him the timeout back because the play clock was going to run out.
Yeah, delay a game. It was already. Yeah, it was going to be a delay a game.
They not only gave him his time out back because he told them he was clapping, but they gave him another play without a penalty. And so, well, maybe Auburn was clapping on defense. I don't know, but they didn't call it.
Yeah.
And you don't get a free timeout to complain about it.
No, I mean, no, I didn't understand him. I don't blame Kirby Smart. He's going to try to get away with it. Well, he's going to try to do whatever he can. I was more disappointed in Oklahoma designing a play that was illegal, knowing it was illegal, and hoping the officials wouldn't catch it. And the SEC officials did not catch it as obvious as what they did in that game. And you can say what you want to as careers and seasons and records go on. There's two that you can never bring back. You know, you can say, well, you should have won anyway. Well, when you're a game that's favored by 1 point or 3 points, touchdowns that should not have happened are the difference in close ball games. And unfortunately, Auburn's probably not dominant enough to go out there and play a fifth-ranked team, a sixth-ranked team, a top 10 team, and have those kind of points added or taken away and still win.
Well, and here's the thing, and that's like you're talking about it, and you understand this, as do all coaches in college. Think of the difference between Hugh Freeze's life today if Auburn's 5-1 instead of 3-3.
Oh, everything. Your players go to class and people are they're now being, I don't want to say ridiculed, but now they're saying they're hearing negatives, or as everybody's talking, they're hearing the noise and the coaches and instead of a positive atmosphere, you now as a head coach have to overcome the negative that exists because of games that you played well enough to win. You didn't play as well as you want. You made enough mistakes that you want to correct them. But the fact is, the other team probably made just as many. We just don't look at them because they ended up having a winning record, winning more points than you did. But it's, you know what? And it reminds me it's funny, and I say it funny. It happens against Georgia because remember 96 was our 4 overtime game, and the official stopped the clock when Charles Dorsey runs off the clock. The clock was running out. All their receivers were in the end zone. And it was about 10, and they would have had to come all the way back, and then they would have had to down it. Well, the official stopped the clock with no timeouts left.
That was about as unbelievable as what we saw.
Yeah, that's right. It was against Georgia, and it was the same as this one. Is that I can't believe the officials aren't smart enough to say. I mean, at the very worst, in the game Saturday night, the officials should have said. He was stopped 1.5 yards short, put the ball down. Now nobody's at a loss. They're not at a loss. Auburn's not at a loss. You didn't give them a score. You didn't give them a fumble you didn't see. Let's make them score from the half-yard line or whatever. No, he couldn't make that call. But anyway.
That play in 1996, Terry, and again, I was on the sideline.
Yeah.
And Mike Bobo was quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets sacked. And the game's over.
It is.
And he's lying on the ground, and he just kind of lets the ball roll out of his hand.
Right.
He knows it's over. He knows it's over.
Right. Absolutely.
And then Charles comes running by and picks it up, which he shouldn't have done.
No.
But I've seen similar situations where they didn't stop the clock. The game was over.
Well, that's right. That's official. No, Charles was just holding the ball above his head, running off the field. We won. And that official should have known the game was going to be over. There was no way you could get the thing off. Even with stopping the clock, they still downed it with one. They only got 1 second left. They downed it with 1 second left. They had none. Well, anyway, that it's a shame because of I thought because of the off-season preparation that Auburn had for the game was obviously they worked hard at their game plan. Defense played great like they have been playing. The offense, the quarterback, the offense, the short yardage, the protection, the mix of run and pass, I think we had 250 something yards in the first half before that touchdown was taken away, and they had 18 or 19 yards. And we were, I won't say 7 for 8 on third down, maybe 6 for 8 on third downs, whatever it was. It was everything we were doing just right. And as teams do, going to halftime, they make adjustments. We've got a little bit of our dauber down, I guess, from the series of events, and it just kind of went their way, on those situations. But now you got to get up. Now you got to get off that mat, and it's up to Hugh to get those boys off the mat. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Because I'm now in the business of analyzing all the teams. Missouri's got a pretty good football team. I've watched every game. Great coaching staff. They do a great job. I haven't really studied the Alabama game because I think it was on about the same time ours. No, it was on. I don't know. I think I might have been tailgating for the first time ever. One of my first.
It was an early game. And,
because
they had a chance. I watched it. They had a chance. But yeah, I think I don't like the term "must win."
Yeah.
Because if you don't win, you still got to go play next week.
That's right.
But this is probably about as close to a must-win as you could have, this game against Missouri.
Phillip, I agree with you because I don't ever think you could, as good as Georgia is, and you really, if you were to circle, put that envelope in your desk drawer, if that one where you circle the ones that you've got to upset, Georgia was one you probably were going to have to upset them because of how good they are. Missouri was one at this point. It's a got to have it type of game, just from a standpoint of not us being out there being overly pressured. Well, I've learned quickly that no matter what you and I say, it's not going to put any more pressure on anybody anyway. No. But this becomes a big pressure game just because of the circumstances and how it don't get much easier in the SEC.
No, and and I do think that people tend to be too quick to say, well, this is over. Well, they've lost to number 5, number 6, and this week number 13.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And 2 of them on the road.
Yep. And
could have won all of them.
Yes, could have won all of them, and maybe should have won 2 of them.
Right. That's
because of officiating.
And to say then that this team can't beat anybody, I think that's kind of silly. We'll see now.
Yeah.
And people that have short memories, we can't score on anybody. That's what I've heard for 24 hours, 48 hours. We can't score on anybody. Well, the first half they sure did.
Yep.
And I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that I think that Jackson Arnold, who is a great young man, by the way, has just got to find a way to be more consistent.
Right.
And, I mean, it could have all been different if he would have just thrown the ball, hadn't overthrown Eric Singleton in the second half. He's going to score if he throws in the ball.
Right. He was a little inaccurate in the second half when I saw it, just a little bit inaccurate.
Yeah, he didn't run the ball as well, and I think
that's right. And you know what I did watch Florida State lose to Pittsburgh, and this is the reality of football. Somehow you just got to find a way to make things work. Because here's Pittsburgh. They had Eli Holstein was their quarterback. He went 7-0 last year, and they got beat towards the end, but he's their quarterback. He's not playing great, so last week they benched him and put a true freshman in. For 2 weeks in a row, he's thrown for over 300 yards. Yeah. He led Pittsburgh up and down the field against Florida State to win. Somehow, and not that you're going to replace Jack, what I'm just saying is you got to find a way, your quarterback's got to find a way to get it done. When you put that helmet on, with that cue on your body, quarterback, you've got to make those kind of plays. But because I thought, at least as our game plan was good enough to win a close game. It was going to be a close. If it was going to be a victory, it was going to be a close victory anyway. It wasn't going to be a blowout. And we were playing with just one more big play. That's why I've always said, if you play great defense and run the ball as best you can, and don't overthrow your explosive plays. Don't miss your deep balls, because those are the ones that when you're playing a good defense, that's a one-on-one that you can win every now and then to make the difference in a close ball game.
Right. That brings us back to Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, he missed two, really, against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
On the first one, Cam Coleman was kind of misjudged the ball and slowed down. And that's the reason that one was over.
Yep.
But the second one, Cam's 8 yards behind everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not a coach, but I know the one thing you cannot do there is overthrow the ball.
No.
If he has to stop and catch the ball, that's okay.
Absolutely.
But you cannot overthrow it.
Phillip, my dad taught me one thing when I was young. He had Charlie Ward. He had some great young quarterbacks. He said, Terry, there are two absolutes in sports that'll never change. There are others, but these two will never change. Short putts never go in, and overthrown footballs never get caught. He said, you throw it 1 inch short, you throw it 6 inches short, probably going to get caught. Or it might be but if you throw it 1/2 an inch too long, it's 100% incomplete. And so you spend all your time. This is a little football note. And you can't go out in the middle of the season. You can't run 100 takeoffs and practice your deep ball because your legs will be. You have to make sure you get that done in the spring, and in the summer, your conditioning drills have to be one thing: take off, take off, take off, and quarterback hit your receivers going full speed without overthrowing them because you can't practice it enough. It's like live, like that goal line short quarterback sneak. That's hard to get if you don't practice it. Well, me and Trickett used to have a battle because you can't go live during the season in practice, and the only way you block that way is on goal line. You don't ever put your nose on the ground and try to crab through the defense. So you got to do a lot of preseason practice. Now, I thought we did get him in, but when I see quarterbacks overthrow the ball, I think of my old man saying, Terry, short putt, overthrown football, 100%, it won't ever be caught. And that's what happens.
Trickett probably wanted to go live all the time.
All the time.
I guarantee it. If it wasn't for Pete Jenkins, and we'd have had no sanity at all there. I'm going to tell you. And I say that with a lot of affection in my heart because when it came down to it, I probably wouldn't trade Trickett for any line coach I ever had because like I said, I had Willie Anderson and I had Wayne Gandy last Saturday by me in the stands and Willie Anderson, and those both first-round draft picks. And they probably made more money in 3 years than I made in my life back in what we got paid coaches back then. But you're right, though. We'd have gone live short. But you can't really practice. That's the toughest thing about running that quarterback sneak that's now popular by the Eagles. I think the Eagles in the NFL kind of perfected that push. Is that it's hard to do that because it's not like any other running play. It's not like a normal block. It's not like a normal protection. So you got to practice live. We used to take a blocking dummy and put it on its side. So you had to put your nose on the ground and try to drive that blocking dummy, down the field with your feet chopping because it's hard to get that thing done. But anyway, he got across, and that was important. A lot of people don't want to call that quarterback sneak anymore because the officials are so chicken. They'll never give you a touchdown. And then by the time they undo the pile, the defense has pushed them back a half a yard, and everybody gets nervous. But that's why we tell our linemen, you keep pushing till 5 minutes after the whistle blows, you keep pushing because they may be afraid to call it, which they are.
Terry, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
You said you weren't suggesting that they change quarterbacks.
No. I know because I don't even. I'll be honest with you, I haven't even watched the backup quarterback.
What I'm asking this is what as a coach, to change quarterbacks at midseason. What are the challenges to making that decision?
Okay, you built your whole preseason up. Well, you at least your preseason, maybe 2 seasons, saying this is the guy. This is my guy, and building people's confidence up in him. And I did not mean that, but you got to find a way to win. It's very different now. So if you bench him, you've now pretty much said that's the reason why. And then you got to hope you got somebody behind him that can win with you. Because if you bench him for somebody that's not as good, you could have messed it up even worse. I mean, so I don't know that I've ever benched my starter to play the backup, but I know sometimes you got to do. I thought they got rid of the ball quickly. They got quick passes out. They throw a takeoff earlier that was thrown real quickly, so there was no sacks. I didn't see the false starts. I think we had a couple of holdings that were unfortunate later on, but there's a lot of difficulties, and it's very hard to bench your quarterback. And I don't recommend it. But I'm saying is, the coach at Pitt knew he had to make a tough decision, and he made it. And the example, Phillip, I wanted to give, Shane Beamer, if you read the paper this morning, he fired his offensive line coach. Now, Shane's a good guy, and his dad's a great guy. I know his dad more than I know Shane, but I've talked to Shane a lot. And Shane had to fire a coach that he hired, and nothing tougher than that. And he fired him because I think they had 5 sacks against LSU. They had 6 or 7 false starts, and 4 of them were on the offensive line at LSU. And they've given up 19 sacks this year, and that's second in the SEC.
Yeah.
And so I guess he had to make a decision. He said he called the AD at 4 a.m. this morning, and it probably was a very, very hard decision, but he felt like he's got to do something to create a spark. And so the problem with changing your quarterback, you got to make sure it's hard to go back on that move, and go back and say, no, I'm going to go back to you. So it's not an easy move. And to me, I think there's a lot of things that aren't just the quarterback. I'm not really. I mean, they fixed a lot of things Saturday that it wasn't the quarterback's fault. He's got to be a little more accurate, and probably and when he runs, he's got to know when to make sure he's a smart runner, because he's not necessarily a shifty runner, but a smart runner. And just make sure. It's like I was saying when I picked Texas to beat Oklahoma in my little job that I have. I said Archie Manning just has to play a clean game. If they're open, hit them, and don't overthrow the deep ball, but don't throw interceptions and don't make mistakes. But just play a good fundamental football game. I think with Jackson Arnold, that's very important. He plays a good, smart game. Get the ball to the open receivers when they're open, and then don't turn the ball over. And he has not turned the ball over at all. So again, I'm not. I don't think I know enough about the situation to say they ought to change quarterbacks. I don't really believe that based on my knowledge of what's going on. But I was going to say Shane Beamer, and nor should they fire their offensive line coach. I'm saying is those coaches made the decision that they're in trouble. If they don't get something fixed, they've got to find a way. And we in the off week, I thought we did a pretty good job with the game plan. I think offensively there was definitely something worked on in the offseason that was working. And I think if momentum hadn't left after that fumble call on the goal line, if momentum hadn't left them, the emotional lift that took away, because I guarantee it, in the stands where I was sitting, I turned to the people around me and I told my wife, I said, they just, it's like the air went out of everybody. The air just went out of everybody around me. They all said, oh no, you could just feel it. And I said, I hope those players don't feel that, because that's about all it takes to take that edge away from you that you need to beat a team like Georgia.
Well, there's just such a huge difference in being ahead 17 and being ahead 10-3.
Yeah, ton. And with the defense,
you've played as well as you can play.
Right.
Well, think about the 93 Florida game. Florida's driving, about to go in, and Calvin Jackson intercepts that pass and runs it back. I mean,
well, when your defense is as good as Auburn's is, and you're up 17-0, and you've just scored right before the half, and maybe they score, but with the momentum and the energy that you now have and the excitement that you have on the bench, I don't think they score when they come out of after the kickoff. I just don't think they. But when they stop us on the one and get that very first down, it just kind of changed it at that point. So,
it's me, because Auburn stopped them on their first possession of the third quarter.
Right.
And then Auburn had a misfire on 4th and 1.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah, you're right.
Georgia scored on their next possession.
That's right.
And it was like a completely different game.
Yeah, it was.
Phillip, let me ask you one more question, too.
Yeah.
You got Tam Coleman on your team.
Yeah.
Who can outjump anybody.
Yeah.
Who is a phenomenal athlete. and he's not getting any opportunities to out-jump anybody. I mean, he caught 7 passes Saturday, but they were all fairly short.
Yeah.
What do you do to take advantage of that?
To me, if I had a great deep ball runner or a guy that could really have great leaping ability, they use that terrible phrase I don't like, catch radius. He's tall, or he jumps good.
Right.
But you can get into I call it trips. You get 3 receivers to one side and run your two inside receivers across the middle. It frees you up one-on-one on the outside. You end up getting one-on-one. You can match up and get yourself into a one-on-one situation if you feel like your quarterback, that's what you want to do. At least you get some deep ball one-on-ones, or if you're just playing your normal formations, and you get when hitches or shorter throws. You got to give him a chance to catch him. I've often said, when fans say the quarterback just doesn't throw enough deep ball, he doesn't attack downfield. And I like to say, well, the coach can make that decision. All you got to do is tag a play. If I was telling, like when we beat Alabama in '93 for the touchdown, I called 78 Z takeoff. Well, that tells the quarterback, forget all 4 receivers, just throw it to number Z, the flanker, throw the takeoff to him. You've got no other option. Hit it or throw it away. And of course, that was Frank Sanders. So when I send in, if I want them to go to Coleman, then I might say 215X takeoff or 216X post. And now your quarterback knows, unless it's some kind of screwy defense, I'm going to him. And that way you take the pressure off the quarterback. It usually means hit him or throw it away, or run. So the coach has the ability to control the deep ball and give him that ball. But sometimes when the defense takes him away, you've got to get a special alignment where if the defense overplays it too much, that other receiver isn't too bad on the other side either, and you got to go to him. But Coleman, you got to give him a chance, especially in the red zone. If you can give him a chance to catch the ball one-on-one, and then don't throw it, don't overthrow it. Just throw it behind him, throw it high, throw it a little bit outside, and give him a chance to out-jump the defender, because most of the time it's going to be caught by the offensive guy or pass interference by the defensive guy,
Well, Phillip, we appreciate you being with us again this week.
Hey, I enjoyed it.
Great fun, Phil.
Good talking to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about.
I sound good now that I'm retired.
There you go.
I guess a lot of the fans don't realize when I first got to Auburn, it was the end of an era. I don't think that I was at the beginning of it. The era when the head coaches and the writers, whether it be Phillip Marshall and some of the older writers that wrote, where you sit around on Friday nights and play poker and drink whiskey, whatever some of them do or some of this do, and you have a good time together and nothing leaves that room and you get to know each other and they get to know you. It's a little bit, today's world is a little more confrontational. Today's world is a little bit more, where you don't have that relationship anymore. But Phillip was even older than I am. He was part of it all the way back to Coach Dye. And I imagine we all have stories that we don't tell in those days. But there were a lot of things that a lot of relationships that we have with the beat writers that you just can't have hardly anymore, because people want to hear, good well, they're not getting on our website. They're not getting on our message boards to be friendly all the time. That's not going to happen.
And I've got stories that I could tell, but I won't. I can't imagine what Phillip could tell.
Oh gosh. Well, and again, that's the toughest thing, because and I would say this, one is a head football coach, and I was going to talk about that a little bit because they fired James Franklin at Penn State. I just didn't think they would do that, at this point. And I did not think right yet,
And 34 wins in the past 3 years.
He's been in the college football playoffs last year, and so give him a chance to turn it around. I mean, you thought he was great 6 weeks ago, and now and then I'm thinking, well, you're getting paid that much. You just made $50 million not to coach. I don't know, but that seemed a little.
There was more going on there. I heard a couple of weeks ago that he and the AD had gotten really, really
sideways.
And you know how that works. I mean, same thing does at Florida, and it doesn't work.
Well, and that can happen. Coaches get, Brian Kelly, you can tell he was, if you listen to his press conferences last year, he was getting irritated. He was getting thin-skinned. And he got even a little bit this year, And so I think you got to be careful because you're not allowed to get that way with your AD. You have to sit down and listen sometimes, and you don't want to. And if you get sideways, you can be in a little bit of a trouble. And I just think sometimes, and Dabo, who I think the world of Dabo Sweeney because I work for him, he got a little sideways after they lost some games, and he got sideways, and then he lost that game to Syracuse. I think that was that last one he lost. It humbled him, but he just, the reality is, I don't care how good you are, you can go through tough times, and I'm convinced that whether it be now, and of course he had a big win this week, that he'll get that thing straightened out. I just think he's that kind of head coach that he's proven he can get it done. But with James Franklin getting fired, and I think they probably had a $50 million buyout or $40 million.
It was 40 something million. But I mean, and this is the other thing. I mean, people always want to fire the coach.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes the coach ought to be. Sometimes things get stale, and sometimes you need a coaching change. But for all these people on our message board, and I want to kind of, I don't want to say voice the reason, but having been through it, look, I've been fired 3 times in the middle of the season. So, I mean, it's a tough deal.
It happens if you coach long enough, it happens. My dad was at Florida State 34 years and never had. First year he went 5-6 back, and he had winning season and bowl games every single other year. And then they called him in and said, "You're gone," after 1 year. At 1 year, what happens? You stay too long, and then your bosses they weren't born when you started, And it gets to be you get hired by different people. That's a different ball game. But it's the nature of the business. I find it a little fascinating because I don't care if I was at Auburn or my brother at Clemson, my dad. When you lay there and you've lost a couple of games, you don't sleep at night. You know as well as I. You get up early. You're in the office at 4 a.m. You don't leave till midnight. And you're trying to do everything you can because you can't. It makes you miserable. I don't care what you feel like as a fan. As a coach, it makes you miserable. And I'm just wondering what it would be like. So you know what? Instead of you're sitting there deciding whether to stay up past midnight or go to sleep. Well, if they fire me, I got $50 million. I think I'll go to sleep. I don't know that I would have said that, but dang, it sure makes you wonder. That's quite a parachute you got there to fall back on. But the main thing is, what's that?
A little different than it was a few decades ago, huh?
Oh, shoot, yeah. I mean, it was. I don't care, my dad or me or my brothers or coaches 25 years ago. Even your buyout might have been 4 years, but it wasn't even the full amount. And then if you took another job, they only paid you the amount that you lost, in the process. It was a little bit more of a you might not have employment for a while, but anyway, some things have changed, and I was only going to say one, sitting up in that stands in that game and watching the people and how much they were invested. The way they got and involved, and financially involved, all the areas that they're the involvement by so many people, and how many people it means a lot to a lot of people. And when you become a head coach at any school, whether it be Auburn or Alabama or anyone, and they offer you you better understand how much this means to so many people who really don't control you being there. They don't. But I promise you, there are people everywhere, including Auburn, that make those decisions, and you got to be productive. But you see James Franklin, who is unbelievably successful at Penn State for 10 years, and they just bought him out. And then you see Shane Beamer, who is really a class guy, and he had to fire an offensive line coach in the middle of the season who had a family, who had children, in order to get his thing going. He had to get some spark back in his team, and he felt like that's what he had to do it. You see the coach at Pittsburgh who just beat Florida State. He had to fire his starting quarterback and put in a true freshman, And now he's won 2 games, but he felt that's what he got paid for, to make tough decisions. And that's kind of what you have to do. I've never liked to dismiss a coach that I hired because that was your responsibility when you hired somebody.
Well, no doubt. That's a tough deal. And, but look, the other thing is these coaches are going to school. I mean, these coaches' kids are going to school, and everybody wants to talk about the dad getting fired. And it's a tough deal. And everybody wants to talk about, we talked about earlier, people want to talk about coaching changes. I just want to caution fans. Eli Drinkowitz didn't have a great couple of years when he started out at Missouri. It took a little bit. And I'm not saying that the issues at Auburn are going to be fixed overnight, but this is really not the year that you want to be looking for a head coach. I mean,
I don't think so.
You've got Penn State that's open. You've got Florida that's probably going to open. I mean, you've got Wisconsin,
Arkansas
open. You've got Arkansas that's open.
Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. Oklahoma State. I mean, this really is not the year that, it's going to be, for lack of a better term, it's going to be a bloodbath this year. And, you're probably going to have 30 plus jobs open. It's really not a year that you want to be looking for a coach.
Well, and then the main thing to me is we're halfway through. The old saying, nothing more important in life than the score at halftime. Mm-hmm. And really, unless you have got a coach that you're going after, that everybody else is going to go after, and you want to be the first one to talk to his agent behind the scenes, there's nothing that you need to get done right now. You need to focus on as much as we can. We're playing so close. Seasons have turned around. Look at Billy Napier at Florida last year, and his last 5 games, or maybe he was 6-1 his last 7 games from where he started last year. I remember when I first was at Sanford and Auburn called that same year. Virginia Tech called. Frank Beaver was like having 5 bad years. Mm-hmm. He had not gotten going yet, and they were going to fire him, or they were thinking they were. Well, they made the smart decision and kept him. And he became the most successful coach in Virginia Tech history. But he had to get his culture and his system in. In a lot of ways, I think that's what you got to do. So, again, the more I'm on the podcast, and I do national podcasts, things that it's a fan's right to criticize and to say what they want to say. But if just be patient. I mean, and try to enjoy it as much as you can. I'll say this. I'm not, it kind of shocks me. Not shocks me, but it amazes me, and it makes me more appreciative. Auburn's had 4 losing seasons in a row.
I know.
And that stadium's packed. That stadium is wild. Yes. I said, golly, there is a commitment by the fans and a commitment by the university and everybody to that football program. And again, it was Georgia game. And it was a night game against Georgia, but still,
it's an unbelievable environment. I mean, it is 2 or 3, 4 environment. I mean, look, there are a lot of great venues in college football, but I mean, I've been to a lot of them, and it is a very, very unique environment. It is, it's one of the top, certainly one of the top 5 best atmospheres in college football.
I think, without a doubt, and I have been very fortunate to have coached or broadcasted in almost every great venue, because you got to remember, not just when I was at Auburn, but when I was at Akron and ULM, we played Michigan on the road. We played Ohio State on the road. We played Tennessee on the road. We played Penn State on the road. We played Texas on the road. Now, so anybody I didn't happen to catch when I was at Auburn, we had to go be the underdog and play in their stadiums. And then as a broadcaster, I got to coach in the Rose Bowl. I did the broadcast in the Rose Bowl, or at the Coliseum in when USC was really good, and there are a lot of great environments, and there are a lot of great bands, and there's a lot of great pre-games. But I've not seen any that are more emotional than the Eagle circling the field and landing, and then the entire atmosphere of an Auburn game, including the halftime performance that with the light show and I know it was Cam Newton getting awarded retiring his jersey. Right. But dang, it was a pretty impressive halftime. It's one of those halftimes like the Super Bowl. You don't want to leave. You don't want to miss this. It's too good, Right. And so a lot of credit goes to the Auburn people and just the whole Auburn commitment to this program. And just got to hang in there. We got a tough one coming up now. We got a tough one. This
How do
one
you see
I
Missouri?
haven't studied it yet. I have not. I mean, I've studied. Missouri is the most underrated team in the conference as far as a good football team, well coached. They've got their NIL together. They've got some good football players. The little running back they got out of ULM is the leading rusher in the nation. Now, he got held to 52 yards against Alabama, so I don't know where he stands now. But Ahmad Hardy is a little kid out of Mississippi, the running back that leads the nation in rushing going into this past week. They got a quarterback, Bo Prabula, out of Penn State. He was a backup at Penn State, but he's done real good for him. He's done a really good, solid job. And they play really good on both sides of the ball. And then Eli Drinkwich, their head coach, done a great job. He's and I want to say he was at Appalachian State way back and a few other places, but he's done a remarkable.
Actually, he was GA at Auburn.
Was he at Auburn?
He was at Auburn with Gus. But I mean, I think people really fail to realize that Missouri's a tough job. And I represent a couple of coaches on their staff. He does an unbelievable job. He's got a great coaching staff, and it matters. As you know, you had great coaching staffs. I saw it firsthand at Auburn, and I've also been on staffs where you had some that weren't so great, and it catches up with you.
Well, the thing that Missouri has taken advantage of, because we all have to think a little bit in today's game, that if your school will commit to NIL, commit to that kind of money, enough of it. I don't know that you're going to beat Ohio State or Oregon or some of the teams that give all of it, but if you'll commit, and Missouri has made that commitment, they've brought in some very, very good football players, but they're not outbidding Ohio State. They're not outbidding Oregon. They're probably or LSU or Alabama or even Auburn, I would imagine. Well, who knows? I don't know. They're out there outbidding a lot of people, but I think they've done with great coaching. Because you watch the games they win, they're kind of like we perceive Vanderbilt right now as being well coached. Now, right now but Vanderbilt has a quarterback to go with that well coached. I think Missouri has proven they can do it with whatever quarterback they got right now with Drinkwich, and they'll bring a very good team in here, and we'll have to score some points. We're going to hold them down. We're going to hold them down, not where they want to be. I think, but we've got to score just like we were on course to do this year. This Saturday night we were going to have 17.5. I'd have seen us having 27-30 by the end of the game if we keep that thing going. But we're going to have to score in the 20s. You're not going to be able to win a game 16. I don't think 16-10 against Missouri. I think you've got to get 21, 25 points offensively because they're going to be able to score some points. I think against Alabama they did. Against I think most everybody they played, they've scored some points.
Yeah, they will, and it's another night game. I think it's 6:45 kick. It'll be another wild environment. And before we go, and we're running out of time, but let's talk a little bit about the games this weekend.
Who we got? And I traveled all Sunday from Auburn back home here in Louisiana, but I've looked at a lot of them. What do we got as far as the game? You got a couple that
LSU at Vandy. It's at number 10 LSU at number 17 Vandy. Both teams 5-1. I believe the line.
Do you have have you seen the latest line on it?
It's Vandy by 2.5.
Wow, Vandy by 2.5, and that's being played where at Vandy?
It's in Nashville.
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. That's kind of a do or die for LSU and what they're wanting to do this year. My first thought is LSU had won a big game against South Carolina last week, and my first thought is to take the 2.5 and go with LSU, but I can't. Pete, I got to put a little thought and preparation. Look at that thing because of the way Vandy's played. They can play with anybody, but when it comes down to talent, Alabama showed them that your talent level gets a little bit higher. You got a better chance to slow that operation down. But with their quarterback and their offensive system, that's going to be a tough one. That's why they're favored by 2.5. But I mean, my first thought is LSU, but I'll try to post on Friday. Check me out on Bowden Blitz on Sports Grid. You'll get my Friday afternoon. We kind of get to the final point. Who else we got going on in the conference?
Yeah, Oklahoma at South Carolina. The line, Oklahoma by 4.5.
South Carolina's a lot like Auburn. South Carolina 3-3, Auburn 3-3. They're playing great defense. They have not come through offensively like they wanted to. Now, unlike us, they come back with, Lenora Sellers was picked by many to be the best quarterback in the conference, and he's a great talent, but they've underproduced on offense. And I think you just saw where the head coach fired his offensive line coach because they've had a problem with offensive line penalties, offensive line sacks. And so they made some changes there in that game. And that was who? South Carolina and
Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma. I think I picked Texas last week. I thought they'd make a comeback.
And they did.
And they did. But I'm going to pick Oklahoma in this one to make their comeback against South Carolina. South Carolina is still struggling on offense. But, I thought when I looked at Jackson Arnold and I looked at Arch Manning, I felt both of them had to do the same thing. Just manage. Don't be a superstar. Don't need to be. Go out there and play a good, clean game. If the receivers are open, hit him. Don't throw it and don't turn the ball over. And just manage the offense, and your team around you is good enough to win. I think that's the situation that they have. They've got to do against Oklahoma to win that game.
We got A&M at Arkansas. A&M by 7.5.
Oh, it go A&M all the way. Arkansas, since they fired their coach, it's gotten worse and worse. They're a pretty good I love their quarterback, and they've had a very good team. But I think, they played pretty well last week. I want to say they lost a close game. I didn't get to watch a lot of them.
Lost to it was. I think it ended up being a 3-point game.
3-point game. But I've got A&M. To me is A&M may be the sleeper that I thought Auburn might have been earlier. If Auburn wins their close game,
5-0. 6-0.
Well, they're 6-0, and they have shown that they can score on offense. If it's an offensive shootout, they can score, and if it's a defensive dominated game, they can hold people down. They've won both ways. No scores against Auburn, and a lot of scoring against Notre Dame. They won 41-40. So right now they've got a quarterback that's a dual threat. They got two outstanding running backs, a couple of really good receivers, and their defense has been playing pretty well. So I think I would have to go with Texas A&M in that one.
The big one of the week, I think, is we got two really, really big ones outside of Auburn, Missouri is a big game, but number 5 Ole Miss at number 9 Georgia, and Georgia minus 7.5.
That's line. I might say I think Georgia will win, but I think Ole Miss will and the points I'd have to go with. That's my first thoughts, and I'm going to take Ole Miss in the points. And that's always safe to do because in Georgia wins, you still, if it's not by 7.5, that's a lot to me. Ole Miss has found a way to win. They had a perfect year and that nobody was expecting anything out of them. And then they got a starting quarterback that was at Ferris State. Was it Ferris State? A Division II school. Started at a Division II school up in Detroit area. And so now he is a superstar. But they've been playing pretty well. They've been winning the game. They didn't play well last week. They were a 33.5-point favorite, and they won by 3 or 5 points or something.
But that happens.
You don't get up for the game. You don't play with enthusiasm. You don't get motivated, and you start slow. And but I think my first thoughts are to go with Ole Miss on that one.
Number 21 Texas at Kentucky. I can't imagine that's going to be a very good game. I would think Texas.
What's the line on it?
Texas by 10.5, and I think they probably cover.
Yeah, my first thoughts is they've kind of got their act together a little bit. And Kentucky's really now you've got later in the season, and kids are seeing that the record's not going to be real good, and kids have left to play for it. Texas has got to keep on going now. They were down and out. Now they've got to get back. I don't think they can get to the playoffs with 3 losses. I don't think they can get to the conference championship, but that's a possibility if they win every game and they're 9-3 that they're back in it because people want to vote Texas back in. That's the reality. Yes. If you got a big name, they want you back in. It's like Notre Dame. If they win every single game, they lost 2 games early and everybody was saying, no way, shoot. Those voters will go right back on Notre Dame if Notre Dame keeps on winning. And I do think it's possible with 3 losses to get into the SEC, get into the playoffs in the SEC because the schedule is so tough. And if it's going to happen, Big Ten, SEC could very well have 1 or 2 teams with 3 losses in the playoffs, at least one in each one.
Alabama, and this is really the kind of the marquee outside of Ole Miss, Georgia, but number 11 Tennessee at number 6 Alabama. The spread's 9.5.
Alabama, You know, my thoughts are Tennessee. I do think Alabama is trending upward, and Tennessee's kind of leveling off a little bit to me after that Georgia win. They're playing good, but not great. And Alabama is trending that way, but that seems to be too many points for me. I think when Tennessee has to score points, they can score points. And so now you understand when we're doing this, we can't pick favorites. You know, it's the old saying, "I want Auburn to win," and anybody's playing against Alabama. Well,
that's right.
when you're given the line, that's not what you're allowed to do. You know. But anyway, I think Tennessee is. I don't think they can beat them by that. Was it 9.5? You said
9.5. I think I'm picking Alabama probably. Yeah. It's still early in the week to win, but I don't think they cover.
Oh, that's the way I am. I think that Alabama wins, but I don't think they cover. In the eyes of full FanDuel or all those people, it's a matter of will they cover and all that or not cover. So it should be an exciting week.
Should be a great week. But before we go, talk about our sponsor.
Oh, Tom Haley, and it was great. Tom Haley of Haley Red Development Company in Auburn is our corporate sponsor for our show, and I can't thank Tom Haley, who kind of makes the decisions in regard to this show, covers this show, allows us to be on every week, kind of brought us back to Auburn. He had a great tailgate. He has a great tailgate at the games because he's right there beside the stadium. So he had his 3 tents set up, and we went over there and visited with some old friends, Leslie and Chris Henley, good friends of ours from Auburn. Way back, you know that you were going to be with us. Yeah, you had a little tough time at home with the family, but a great time with the and then on the field, Brent Bledsoe. I want to thank Brent. He works with Hugh, but he was allowed to get me tickets to get on the field, and a lot of good old Auburn people are out. Jimmy Brumbaugh, I got to talk to some Georgia people that used to be on Auburn staff, and enjoyed that. My wife, her son's on the staff at Georgia. And I was a little bit embarrassed. I was embarrassed, I know, taking her up in the Auburn section with her colors on. But we learned in this state, we learned to deal with mixed marriages, and whether it's Auburn and Alabama or Auburn and Georgia. So anyway, I want to thank Tom Haley, and again, so much for all that he does to bring us back and bring this program. And I'll try to post a few times throughout the week on the Auburn Undercover discussion board.
Well, I believe that's up. I believe our time's up, and we thank everyone for listening. Click like and subscribe below. It really helps us out, and we'll see you again next week.
Take care now.
For more than 100 years, the Haley Red Family Foundation has proudly supported Auburn University scholarships, investing in students' dreams and brighter futures. For over 25 years, we've also stood beside the Sheriff's Girls Ranch, helping young women find hope and opportunity. The Haley Red Family Foundation, building generations of success.